Hello, everyone. My name is Keith Parent, and this is the Driving the Business of Science podcast. I am the CEO of Court Square Group. We are a managed service firm managing infrastructure for life science companies. We have what we call ARC. It's an audit-ready compliant cloud, and we can host any application from preclinical all the way through manufacturing. We also have a content repository that starts out with Life Science Launchpad, as well as an eTMF, EDM. We just came out with a pharmacovigilance module. So we've got all those kind of things. What it's taught me over the years is that there's a lot that goes into the business of science. And what I'm trying to do with this podcast is we're trying to show people all the other aspects of the life science world that you may not think about. And some of that is not just the scientists developing the module, but all those other business people trying to help connect people up, collaboration, all the different things that we do. So today I actually have with us Chris Matheus from the Global Life Science Alliance, GLSA, and he's going to talk about what GLSA is all about and give us a background. Chris, great to have you today and love to hear your story.
All right. Thanks very much, Keith. I'm Chris Matheus. I'm a co-founder of Global Life Sciences Alliance, along with my business partner, Denise McNerney. I've been in the clinical research industry since '96, so getting close to 30 years, always in business development in the e-clinical technology space. That's where innovation was happening, and we had to do a lot of education. As a result, a lot of traveling, a lot of conferences, and it's enabled me to build a network of people in the industry, and that's critical in our industry for doing that. At some point in your life, you gravitate towards what you're good at, and I tend to be a connector and remember things about the people I meet, and that's essentially Global Life Sciences Alliance. We connect people and companies to other people and companies to solve problems in drug development.
That's fantastic. I've had a number of people that I would really consider connectors on the podcast because I think it's important. I think that everybody thinks about how big this industry is, or they have this vision of how big this is because they think about the big pharma companies. But the reality is, behind the scenes, there's a lot of independent people that have either worked for big pharma or done something, but they're out there doing their own thing. They get fed up with the rat race or dealing with the large bureaucracies, and they just want to use their knowledge to help people. Tell me a little bit about when you first started, how it kind of evolved from there and what you did to build GLSA up.
Yeah, and since you say that about how small the industry, because I truly believe in this industry, it's 2 degrees of separation when people talk like 6 degrees, but in ours it's 2, and people and other connectors agree with me on that. So if I meet somebody at a conference and they say, I've never heard of you, I say, well, where have you been the last 20 years? And invariably within 5 minutes, you'll say, oh, you worked there? Do you know so-and-so? Boom, game over. We do know somebody in common. So GLSA, we got started originally looking to use our connections over the years to help connect smaller companies without business development people to opportunities based on all our years in relationship with different companies. And we proved that out to work. And then as you adapt, because it was right in the middle of COVID, we had to adapt to what the market was kind of tell us and what people needed. So we've continued to add more things and services to it so we can offer things to the now almost 200 companies in our network. So we help them with making them available like AI and other things. We present that to them, like how we can help them, trying to help them get better at what they do so they can, the overall goal is to speed up drug development and not make it not have companies burn out of their money before they get to prove the drug that they have.
I've always thought about that. And that's one of the things that when we cater to smaller companies, a lot of times what I tell people is that our goal is to help them as a small company extend their burn rate as far as possible. I'd rather see them spending their money on their science than on IT. And because I just don't think it's as relevant as what they're trying to do to bring it to market. It burns me when I see these companies go out there and they'll get somebody coming in from a big pharma company and they come in and you're a 5-man shop and they said, oh, we got to have Viva in here tomorrow. And you say, you don't have anybody to support it. Nobody knows it. It's overkill and you're going to burn through all your money so fast. It's crazy. So I love what you're doing. And I think that's a great way to bring people together. It reminds me of a group. I've been in the business like you, Chris, for over 30 years. And it's amazing that I'm in the Boston area a lot. So we used to have a group that would meet once a month. We would meet for breakfast. It's kind of like a breakfast club. And we'd get together
Right.
with this one area, and it would be different service providers, just kind of getting together, talking about what's happening on at this company or that company. And it was a great way just to talk about who was doing what was happening, where the trends were. Because that's the other thing. A lot of times we want to find out what's going on, what's happening. Is it small molecule? Is it biotech? Is it cell and gene therapy? There's a group in Boston that meets beer and biotech. They go to
Oh,
once a month and they go out for beer. It's all these CEOs that get together and just meet, and they have somebody sponsors it, and they have beer and they have apps and things like that. But it's a great way to get together just to find out what's going on. Some people will commiserate. They talk about what's going on and how they do things, but it's a great way to do it. Tell me some of the stories about how you've met people, because I know that I've actually been to some of your events. Maybe it was at a DIA or it was at one of the events somewhere. And it's great to just sometimes get peers together. And I think that's a great way of looking at it.
yeah. And I spent a lot of time in my career with the randomization and drug management systems, selling those for first quintiles and then icon and Y prime. And if there's one group in our industry that collaborates a lot, it's clinical supply people. They spontaneously have 4 or 5 different groups around the country, even if they just get 30 people together once a quarter, because they have such unique things that happen to them. You're running a trial, you got to have 25 different labels for every language. How are you going to do that on a little bottle? So it just kind of, by going to a lot of those and seeing that happen, I realized there is such a need to get together and talk to other people. And in some ways you think, well, they shouldn't be doing that because they're competitors, but the problems are common to all of them, all right? And not sharing how you worked through it and got that figured out doesn't help anybody in the industry. So the collaboration thing, I really feel like I learned a lot of it from, or saw the need for it from the clinical supply segment of our industry.
I can't agree with you more. I think about sometimes, I've dealt with different labs, whether it's a CLIA lab or something like that, and they've got a -80 and they're trying to figure out how do I keep the
Right?
labels on the bottle and all that kind of stuff. I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm working with a company right now today that's actually building a 500,000 square foot facility that's going to have -2 to 8, -20, and -80. And they're going to be the largest warehouse in North America. So, I see where that's coming and what they're trying to do to upend that whole area. Tell me a little bit more about how GLSA has facilitated collaboration. What have you done? What are some of the projects maybe that people would be able to see themselves in?
Yeah, so we've people, and over time, as people know that I know a lot of people being a connector, so people reach out to me and say, "Hey, I need somebody. I know you know everybody. I'm looking for a physician to be a medical monitor for 6 months on the study." So we get things like that. Just recently, we had one. We've got to do a filing in Canada. We need a regulatory person that knows Canada things. So just find us one regulatory consultant that can handle our filing and update things in Canada. On a bigger scale was going to bio and having meetings with people and meeting with 3 guys from Europe that have 2 molecules, and they said, we want to come to the US and bring these molecules and get started. We're going to need somebody to do our development plan, that's going to know where to do the trials. It's going to do help us with protocol design. And we were able to say, I have the person just exactly for that. There's a woman, Deb Kintop, that is 30 years in ClinOps for oncology drug development, and she is offering her services as a fractional person to do that. And so it's just like, let me just connect you to the person that can do that. And what you were saying earlier is the same thing that drives Denise is to see a small company like these 3 guys to go and pick a large company who, all right, is publicly traded, so they're worried about their quarterly result, and they start change ordering that little company to death, and they run out of money before they can even get anywhere. And that's Denise's driving thing, is not to let that happen. These people that are trying to develop the drugs, let's help them in the efficient, like white glove service, small fractional people, plug them in where you need them.
That's fantastic. Chris, I've got to ask you because I think I know what it stands for, but I see the flag behind you. FOCM. Could you explain FOCM? I think people need
Yeah.
to know what that's all about.
Okay, yeah, thanks. So that grew out of my connecting thing. So FOCM stands for Friends of Chris Mathews. It all happened at a DIA where we were walking around getting stopped all the time. I was with a friend of mine who is a database programmer, and he said, "My God, you know so many people." And that night at a dinner, he said, "You need your own club." And we just, we're talking, saying, "Sure, there'll be frequent flyer points. If you attend more networking events, you can get t-shirts, all that." And I forgot about it by the next day. And then 3 weeks later, I get 500 business cards in the mail with that. A little more cartoonish than this, but I said, "What is that?" He goes, "That's your club. That's the Arizona flag where you grew up and you've lived on both coasts. That's the ocean. You got to have your own club because you just know all these people." So that's where it is. It's I guess networking to the extreme to have your own organization, your own club. But he insists that I do it. He said, "You're irreverent. You have a good sense of humor. You can write funny stuff and blog about it, but you're also getting people together. And every time I travel, um, I throw a networking event." So a good friend from years ago, Christine Mitchell, told me to look at the book, Never Die, Never Eat Alone. And it's when you're business travel and you're somewhere, like if I'm in Philly, I pick a place at King of Prussia Mall and email 60 people that I know and say, "I don't know who can make it, but here's where I'm going to be from 6 to 8." And you get different people each time. And again, it's all the collaboration of what are you working on? You got anything that's causing you trouble? You need help with something? And
I
that's
think
what,
that's fantastic. That's beautiful. I think that, one of the things about just trying to get people together is I don't think people realize, and I didn't realize it until you start to talk about different vagaries around, like even regulatory. Like if I talk to somebody from regulatory, there's regulatory intelligence versus regulatory operations versus, it's
Mhm.
just every single piece of this industry has such silos. And it's so funny because a lot of times they don't even talk to each other. And sometimes
Right,
a small company, one person may have 5 different roles. So they may need to talk to 5 different people because
right.
the people they talk to may only know a little slice of things. And I think from our vantage point, having managed applications all the way from pre-clin through manufacturing, I get a chance to see all of those different silos. So being able to do it and like what you guys are doing, bringing all those people together. I got that email from you guys when you were talking about the Canadian stuff. Now, I'm not the person to solve that problem, but I knew somebody who did. So I actually
Right.
reached out to her and said, "Hey, here's something that the GLSA is looking for. Do you think you guys want to respond on this?" So even though I wasn't the one doing it, because I got your email, I was able to say,
Right.
"Come on in and try to help them out." And I think
Yeah,
that's what connections are all about.
yeah, because we reach into the network and say, "Here's an opportunity. We've had this request. Who can help us with that?" And that's from preclinical to clinical, yeah, all along the way. And some of those people that have worn 3 or 4 different hats in smaller companies are so invaluable because they know the decision made by somebody over here is going to affect that, and their experience is like invaluable.
Well, and particularly since, and you think about our industry, guys like you and I, we're toward the later end of our careers at this point. And there's a lot
Right.
of people that have all of that knowledge that have grown up in this industry over the last 30 years. They're starting to retire. They're getting out of the business. These younger people coming up, they don't have that breadth of knowledge. They need to have some of that tribal knowledge. These smaller companies don't have the training courses that the bigger pharma used to do and all those kind of things. So now it's like, how do I get that knowledge from somebody who's been there, done that? And I think what you guys are doing is a great way of kind of bring some of that together. So how does GLSA support innovation? What do you guys do to help kind of support innovation, both in preclinical and maybe in clinical research?
Yeah, one of the things that's been nice about starting a company is the way that companies find their way to us, and I guess us to them, but innovative companies who are small and have an idea that find their way to us and want to implement that. We get a chance to look at these innovative things, but then helps us when I reach out to people in the industry and say, "We're talking to this company that's using AI to scrub medical records to find the right patients. Is that interesting?" So people, when they see me calling, I hope they think he's usually got something interesting to tell me about. And then if we can bring that to the companies in our not only in our network, like with the AI thing, but the different ways of using AI to scrub clinicaltrial.gov, different ways to find patients and find sites. Then we're able to add value to those companies, and we're bringing that to them. There's a guy worked at Icon. It's a QA guy, and he's all into AI. He was getting, like you said, getting close to retirement. AI comes out, and as a QA guy, he's like, "Oh, how do we know? How can we let that write a protocol? We don't know what it learned. Like what did it? What went in there to have what come out? How can I trust it?" So he's just on fire about doing stuff with the FDA and working on all the AI things. So finding those people and seeing that like spark and then being able to introduce them to other people that are trying to do that has been fun.
Yeah, no, and I think that's great. And I think that it's those people like us that have been in it for this long that need to help inject some of that common sense into some of these areas. I can clearly see the people when I tell people, I've worked in big pharma, I've worked in biotech, I've worked in cell and gene therapy. I can easily tell people that, hey, when I go to work with the biotechs, they're so much easier to work with because they take a lot more risks. Those people that are coming out of the big pharma, they've been indoctrinated so much and they're
Oh
so
my.
risk averse that they'll take forever to make any kind of decision. Whereas the biotech, sometimes they're moving fast because they realize if I don't move fast, I'm not be here tomorrow. So,
Right, right. Yeah, that's so much better because the big pharma, there's so much risk aversion, right? I remember with EDC and any advance, why it has taken so long. I mean, it took honestly 10 years to have people believe they could enter data over the internet.
it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Technology, I always tell people that this industry in and of itself is 10 to 15 years behind the times technology wise, just because of that. Even like AI, when I talk about AI, I said I knew when there was an inflection point when I was on a DIA RIM working group and we were talking about regulatory systems and things like that. And when you had the regulatory people 1 year were saying, we would never use AI to do a protocol, never do this, and never put a document out together. And then less than a year later, ChatGPT comes out, and all of a sudden, within 6 months, they're like, how fast can we get something going where we're creating a document? Once you see that inflection, all of a sudden you know that there's a big difference there.
Yeah, right.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. That I think the industry is taking things on quicker than before.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So as we kind of wind down toward the end here, what's the future vision for GLSA? Where do you see it going, or what's your plans?
Yeah, well, we've got up near 200 different companies in the network, so we continue to expand the network. It's fun finding other people doing innovative things and being able to plug them in. We've added like a panel of experts and consultants, so we can plug those in to help people again at a low cost and trying to help people at a fractional level. Also found people that I do that with, there's so much turnover kind of industry, and you see on LinkedIn somebody open to work. I look at that, I know them, I reach out and say, what are you doing? What do you want to do? Can we offer your services under our umbrella? Because we can plug you into places. As that grows, some of these things take on a life of their own, and then they tell other people. And so we're building the pod, sort of the stable of experts and fractional consultants, so that they can plug in and be places. Like biotech doesn't need a full-time clinical supply project manager. They don't want to hire a full-time, they don't need to. So you get somebody, you plug them in, they're able to do that, oversee the CDMO, help them in the selection. So it's trying to just fit to purpose and give them white glove service without overkill, without overhead.
That's fantastic. One of the things I think about when you just talked about that is, let's say one of my clients asks me for something and I don't do it. I don't want to be all things to all people, but I do want to give them an option. How can I find somebody in my network?
Right.
So what I would do is I would just reach out to you and say, hey, we got a client that's looking for this, and we'd put it out on your net. Is that how it works?
Yeah, and then we put it out. We have a private LinkedIn group, so we can reach out that way. We have a distribution list, and it goes out and says network request and explain what it is we're looking for. One was, sites for a global trial, whatever, patient recruitment help. Yeah, then we put that out, we get that back, and then make that connection.
Conversely, if I've got other companies that I work with that I like to work with, because I think everybody likes to work with people they like to work with, right? You've
Right.
worked with plenty of people that, boy, I hope I never work with those guys again. But the reality is the ones that you like to
Yeah.
work with, you're always going to refer them anyway. So it would be great if those people can actually get hooked in. So, I'm going to think twice, again about those companies I really like to work with. I should make sure that they're part of the GLSA and
Yeah, we
what's
would,
going on.
we would welcome that because that's good. If you've already got previous experience, bring them into the network. And that way we have people so that if you're in the network and like now we did outreach to everybody and said, remember, if you're having any language translation issues, we have 3 language companies in the network. Reach out if you need help. And then other things so we're helping remind the network of who's in the network and what the different things are.
Fantastic.
And anybody. So yeah, welcome you to introduce other people to us.
Fantastic. Chris, this has been an awesome conversation. I
Been
really
fun.
appreciate you taking the time out to talk to me, give me some background on GLSA, and now we can debunk any rumors about FOCM and what that all means. So that's a good thing. But and I
Yeah.
look forward to seeing you at the next networking event that I go to.
All right.
It'd be
Very
awesome.
good.
And if I'm ever down in the Philly area, I'm going to look you up and see if we can get together.
Yeah, Philly, or I'm in Wilmington. If you come to Raleigh, I'll come
Oh,
up to Raleigh and throw an
one of,
event for you.
one of my new clients is down in Wilmington. I'll come down and I'll see you
All
anytime.
right. Very good.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you, everybody. This has been the Driving the Business of Science podcast. Again, Keith Parrott with Chris Matheus today. I hope you've all enjoyed what we talked about today and keep looking forward to our next ones. Thank you very much. And everybody have a great day.